Hi, I'm Anne-Marie Mediwake, and I'm here with Lindsey Deluce and Kelsey McEwen. Welcome to CTV Your Morning, the podcast.
This week, we're talking falling in love with yourself. We have tips on living your best single life still ahead.
And we share our conversation with TikTok's cucumber guy, Logan Moffat. He gives us the inside scoop on his famous salads.
And don't forget, you can watch us live, CTV Your Morning, weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, 7 to 10 a.m. Atlantic on CTV CTV News Channel, and on your CTV News app.
Talking about money and relationships, it's not always easy, but it is paramount.
Yeah, whether it's budgeting for date nights, tackling debt, or figuring out if you really need another streaming subscription, having open and honest conversations about finances, it's not easy, but it can make all the difference.
Absolutely. So let's check out some tips that financial planner Martha Adams has.
So Martha, as a financial planner, what are some of the common money problems you see pop up?
So one big one is around disagreements on how much to invest, when to speed that up. There's, conflicting ideas around that. And one of the biggest ones I see is actually around expenditures, what to buy, what not to buy, how much to pay, and, different priorities around that. And so that one is really big because it ends up leading often to secrecy around what's being bought, and can often lead to kind of hidden debt accounts as well that get racked up rather. So, those are two big ones. However, having an open, meaningful line of communication as a couple can change all of that for the better.
Yeah, it sure can. We're going to talk about that. I imagine, too, it's not easy in today's day and age where we really glamorize this, secret Amazon purchase and, hiding the packages.
True.
There's a whole, online culture about, kind of making light of that.
Yeah.
And so then it's even harder to take the step and be like, no, I'm going to talk about it and be the grown-up here.
Yeah, exactly. Having that open line of communication. And that's something that, helps us to shift the way we talk about money, because right now the way we're often talking about it is that we're focused on the numbers. So it becomes a conversation where we're speaking at each other versus with each other as a couple. And the thing is that money is something that goes far beyond numbers in our life. It's actually a human experience, right? So if you think about any life event that you've had, kind of any size, whether that's a small one, a big one, chances are money was actually there playing a role. And with that came your emotional associations that were formed. And those emotions come before and go far beyond any financial facts. So our conversations as a couple must also go beyond the numbers as well.
Well, that explains why money is such a source of conflict in relationships. You say that humanizing conversations around money is one way to fix those problems. So what do you mean by that?
So because we focused on the numbers, that has dehumanized money in our lives, and that's what's created conflict. So if dehumanizing money is the issue, then humanizing it is the solution. So when we're just focused on numbers, we don't see ourselves as individuals. And if we don't see ourselves, we don't see each other either. Not feeling seen and heard is often at the heart of money conflicts. So seeing yourself allows you to better see your partner and form more meaningful connection together.
So is that changing just even how we say it? It's really important to me that we spend money here, as opposed to saying we've spent $300 here. Is that how you fix that?
So that's one way, is focused on the way that you feel. But more than that, it's about what that purchase means to you. What's the why? So we're often talking about how when we're talking about budgets, money allocation, right? But focusing on why this matters to you. So a quick little story around that. There was a couple I was working with, and the husband really wanted to purchase a car. And it really mattered to him. This was a goal for him, and he had earned the money. They had already allocated to growing the money, and now this was something that he really wanted to enjoy. But it didn't mean the same thing to his spouse. And so, it was a massive point of conflict for them until she could see what it meant for him, and they could then work together to collaborate and prioritize.
Okay, so we've got some tips. I think that we've got a graphic that we can share with our viewers as well, that you can kind of take us through these tips. You talked about the feeling behind them.
Yeah.
The first one here, ask about money experiences. What is that?
So this is about starting the conversation on the human experience of money. So learning about your partner's life story, money story. So talking about life events that matter to them around money. So one of the first things I shared with my husband was when I was 11 years old, my class earned the money for our class trip by starting a chip store in our school. So that was a money experience for me that went beyond the numbers. And from there, work to understand versus judge your spouse when they're sharing with you. Because, when you're sharing your money story, you're often in a vulnerable emotional phase. And so making sure that you are being more empathetic towards them and really putting yourself in their shoes. And then you can move from conflict to collaboration with that empathy, because context for your spouse's story really does equal connection with them. And then you can move to the fourth step, which is to together review the goal. So now with that spirit of collaboration and compromise, you can move together to decide and prioritize what really matters for you.
Oh my gosh, Martha, I just want you back every week because I feel like you're going to help us all get through these tough conversations.
Such great advice, sit down and actually have the conversations, but don't have them when you're in crisis. Just have them early. It made me think of when Daryl and I first got married, we had to do sort of mandatory marriage counseling with the church that we were in. And one of the questions they asked in the section about money was, two things. One, that I still remember, how much debt are you comfortable with?
Like
and
a
you
number?
had to say a number.
Yeah.
And two, how much money sits in your bank account that is a cushion that you feel comfortable with.
Ooh,
and to give a number. It was such a great question because it revealed so much, and it was a really good jumping off point.
Were you surprised?
Yes, because we have very different numbers.
Yeah, because that's not a natural question you'd probably ask somebody as you enter into your married life.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see how people set up their financials, right? When you're either married or you start living with somebody or you're partnered with somebody for life, and how you do it. I mean, we do it in our family. So Drew and I, we have our own personal bank accounts. And then we have a joint account. That joint account we have for, house payments. So anything from like groceries to mortgage payments to any sort of like aftercare, before care. So we contribute to that, and anything else is just ours to do whatever we want with. That's how we're set up.
I can't imagine how many couples maybe had the conversation when they first got together about like that, what you said, Anne-Marie, like how much debt are we willing to carry and how that has changed in the last few years.
Totally.
Because I just can't help but think how expensive life is, how interest rates have changed so dramatically, and the amount that you may have been comfortable carrying in terms of debt, maybe that had to change. Maybe you had no choice. And then I wonder, are couples still having the conversation? Because what Martha and I were talking about, that finding the empathy behind money, I mean, that's something you have to have continually. We often think these big conversations are like a one-time wonder.
Right.
But I really think you have to be able to talk at the beginning of your relationship, hopefully before you're deciding you're going to spend the rest of your life with someone, when you're deciding to spend the rest of your life with someone, and then as the decades go by, because it does inevitably start to change.
Yeah, and then like the financial, because you're in different stages of life, right? So we look at the financial stage of life that we're at now. We're about to launch kids away to post-secondary university, which is, and you're doing, multiples, so it's a big chunk. You got to prepare for that stuff early. You can't just decide the year of that you're gonna tackle that.
Yeah, totally. And that's when I got my first credit card. I think I talked about this.
Oh yeah.
But I didn't have any exposure before university to having a credit card. And like they often have great incentives in your first year, in your frash week. Don't do it. Well, actually, there is the other side of the coin, which says, you want to start building that credit early.
Yes.
You just have to figure out how to build that credit and to make sure you have enough money to pay off the interest.
You know what's wild is, so I was so afraid to get a credit card in university for that, because I watched a lot of my friends go through getting a card, spending the entire limit, and then not being able to pay it back. So I was like, I'm going to be the smart one, and I'm not going to get a card. And then lo and behold, Jay and I we get married. We were like the odd couple that never lived together before we were married. The first time we ever moved in together, we'd actually been married for like 3 or 4 months, but because of work, we'd been living in separate provinces. So then we finally moved in together. We went to go get a mortgage, and I didn't exist credit-wise.
Oh, that's
Because
interesting.
I had never had a credit card. And so that was a big hurdle for us to jump over because I had a very different experience with money than he had.
Right.
And luckily we were able to figure it all out together. But like those conversations are tricky. I feel like sweaty talking about it with you guys, and I'm not even divulging personal information. But it can be really difficult. And my advice to people, because I do a lot of these money segments on our show, which is funny because I feel uncomfortable when I talk about money, is that the more you talk about it, it might not feel better, but it will feel easier.
Yes. So true. I want you to just take a second. Take a moment and think back to the year 2017. What were you doing? Where were you living? Were you married? Did you have children? How old were those children at the time? Where were you working? Now imagine this, as we know, it's 2025, and you have lost all memory from the past 8 years. That is the premise of the new show, Doc.
Dr. Larson was in a car accident last night.
Slipping into the depths of dreams, fragments of truth.
She suffered a brain injury.
So Doc follows Dr. Amy Larson, who has no recollection of her life over the last 8 years. She has to relearn everything again. Connie Miu plays one of Dr. Larson's colleagues, and she's joining us today. I was telling you off camera. Well, good morning to you, firstly.
Good morning.
The show is so good.
That's amazing.
It like rips at your heartstrings. And I find it really interesting because this show is actually based on the real life story of an Italian doctor. His name is Pier Dante Piccioni. He was in a car crash in 2013. And what happened?
He lost, I believe, 12 years of his memory and had to kind of relearn who he was. You know, I remember hearing about his story, and he also was looking back at emails and looking like old emails that he had written, and he didn't recognize himself, looking at old videos, and he didn't recognize the person he had become. And he basically had to learn again.
He had to learn everything.
Build again, yeah.
Isn't that wild? So
Yeah.
tell me about your character on the show.
I play Liz. She's a nurse, and she's a big part of the IMO team. And yeah, so she's a very fun, sweet, bubbly nurse who's incredibly intimidated of Dr. Larson.
She's an intimidating character.
Yeah, she's,
right?
I mean,
Yes.
she's scary. And, you know, I think I respect her so much. And when she gets into her accident, she becomes a patient at the hospital. And so things kind of take a shift.
Yes,
You know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of prep, how did you prep for this role? Because I heard you ordered like the American Teaching Guide?
It's
What is it called?
It's the NCLEX.
Okay,
yeah,
so what is that?
So that's like the MCAT for, it's like the licensing exam for nurses.
Right.
And so I ordered this like thick guide from Amazon, and I was like, I'm gonna learn the entire thing, everything that I need to know about being a nurse. I'm gonna learn it in 2 weeks.
How'd that go?
I mean, I don't know what I was thinking. That was way too ambitious.
Yeah.
And so I gave up on that.
You need
I
the
read,
Coles notes of that, right?
I ended up reading that instead, like a summary.
Yeah, exactly. But you did speak with a bunch of nurses that you know.
I did,
Yeah.
yes.
So what did you do with that kind of prep work with them?
Well, I specifically in my conversations with nurses, I really try to ask them like their day-to-day, because I wanted to be able to build kind of a human character that I could relate to. So, you know, what makes your day go easy? What's an annoying thing that happens? I talked to my one friend. What are the fashion trends? Apparently, they're tucking in their scrubs now, like Gen
that's
Z.
Interesting.
So yeah,
And the terminology too. I mean, to wrap your head around that as well.
Yes, that took a lot of memorization and a lot of work there.
I know, like I do in the prompter, I like break it down into different syllables. So you're from Calgary.
Yes.
And you grew up dancing, which is
did,
great.
yeah.
And you studied at the University of Calgary, I understand, drama as well. But then you made a choice to relocate to Toronto. What was that decision like?
It was a risky decision. On the surface, probably maybe wasn't the smartest move, but in my gut, it just felt right. I really, I wanted to do film, and I was in a theater program in Calgary. The industry is just much bigger out here in Toronto. I've always wanted to live in the city, so I kind of went for it. And
aren't you glad you did?
yeah, I am.
Yeah, well,
I don't regret it.
No, I know, and you've had some great roles, including in Priscilla. What was that like?
Yes. Oh, that was a fever dream. I mean, to work with. Oh
Sofia
yeah.
Coppola.
To work with Sophia, just a legend, and everything felt like we stepped back into a time machine. Hence why I brought my film camera. I just felt like the textures would just match better.
Connie, it's all happening.
Yeah.
It's all happening. Thanks for joining us this morning.
thank you.
Congratulations on the show.
Thank
It
you
was
so
really
much.
great.
You might already be planning ahead. You know, March break is coming up. There's some other long weekends, but trying to rally together a group of people for a trip is not always easy. In
No.
fact, it might sound a bit like this.
Is everyone free in March? Second weekend of March, everybody free? I'm free the second weekend of March, but I would have to be back Saturday morning. So you're not free, babe. Well, okay, seriously, whose car can I come in? We haven't even decided where we're going. We're not there yet. Is that a no from you? I'll go with them if it's a no from you. Okay, Melanie's a maybe. So with Melanie coming, it would be $260 per person. With Melanie not coming, it would be $285. If Melanie comes with her boyfriend, it would be $245 a person. You guys, did we already book this Airbnb? I mean, I was about to. We might need to cancel it. Why? What's wrong? One of the reviews says, host sleeps next to one of the guests. Okay, so maybe not this Airbnb. Show of hands who wants to make a run to the liquor store with me when we get there. Are you seriously already planning the trip to the liquor store? Take that as a no. So if everyone's in, I'm gonna book it. Yeah, book it, let's go. Wait, second weekend of March? Yes, second weekend of March. You guys, I don't even think I can make it that weekend. Steve, we literally already decided that was Portland, Oregon, right?
Okay.
I thought Portland, Maine.
It's just
Wait,
stressing me
where
out.
are we going? Wait, guys.
I get this, though.
Circle up.
It's a lot.
What's the hardest part, do you find? Is it the getting the dates right? Is it the nailing down the price or where to stay?
Where to stay.
Where to stay.
We just did this with, so Drew's family. I'm going away with Drew's family.
Hang
for
on,
March
before you
break.
say that, I just want to invite everybody to weigh in as well,
Okay.
because they may also be able to relate. The WhatsApp poll says, do you like planning group trips? Who likes it? I don't know if anyone
People do.
likes it. They like
My
doing it.
sister-in-law loves doing it.
Oh,
What?
of course,
I'm
he
sorry.
likes it.
We just got a rogue vote from Coco,
What'd
who
you
I don't
say?
think likes anything. And he put up his hand saying he likes planning
You
group
like planning?
trips.
Because I'm in charge.
Are you a fun group planner?
And then if I get
Totally.
angry, there's an excuse because I'm the planner.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you'd be a good planner.
I'm a great planner. I plan a cottage mission every year for me and my friends.
I know, I've heard you're a good
Yeah.
planner. No,
I send like maps and like pictures. And where to go. Oh yeah.
Oh my God, I love
Yeah,
that.
I love it.
Great.
So fun.
My sister-in-law's the same. Like, she absolutely loves it. She said that in her other life, or like a side hustle, potentially later on in life, she'd want to be some sort of travel agent and planner. She's very good at it.
Yeah.
What I found with, like, you know, there's 15 of us or something, 16 of us. The problem is when you're on the WhatsApp group trying to figure out where to go, everyone has a thought. I had to piece out and just go, you know what? Like, the 4 loudest voices, you guys go at it. Give us like 3 options, and then we can decide. It's when there are too many options, I find, that it gets a bit
But I
complicated.
feel like your personality is to be the person who, like, you step back. You're very easygoing. I know you. But then to, like, leap in at the last minute just to stir the pot, to be like, but what if we did this?
No.
Do you? Oh,
No,
are
I
you
don't.
the but,
No, I
are
don't.
you the but what if
No, I
person?
didn't do it. I was trying to chime in.
And then just had to.
I was like, no, I'm good. Like, I know it's going to be great wherever we go.
It was a
what
Lindsey
I
not
really
needed.
appreciate right now is this app that we use called Splitwise.
Yes.
Splitwise
it's so
is a
good.
game changer. If you've gone away with people and you're splitting a whole bunch of costs, groceries,
Yep.
you know, alcohol, whatever it is, and you go into Splitwise, it does the math for you.
Oh,
you do this.
amazing. No.
So we're to the point where, I mean, you can go in and check it out, but you've got all the people, you'd be like, I lent, you know, Kelsey $10 and you $100, and then you all input, and then it actually does the
Oh, that's so
calculations for you. Yeah,
That's
it's
so
great. So
Yeah.
that has helped
Yeah.
on the back end.
Yes,
Amazing.
yeah. We're doing this on 2 fronts right now. So one of my daughters and her friends are planning a senior trip somewhere
Oh,
warm.
fun.
Yes, so there's now, I've joined a parents' WhatsApp group. And then, so friends of ours, we're going with 2 other families, we're going to Europe later this year with all the kids the same age. So we just had a planning dinner on Friday.
Oh, that's so
amazing.
fun.
Yes, there are grocery lists and
So
there are
good.
Do you like
packing
to take
lists.
control of any of that stuff?
So this is an interesting question. There are 2 very strong planners in that group. Normally that would be my role,
Yeah.
but I'm piecing out.
Oh, nice for you.
Good for you.
Just do what I'm told. Thanks for listening to Your Morning, the podcast. Every week, we bring you some of the most interesting conversations from our show on a wide variety of topics. Of course, you can always watch us live weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, 7 to 10 a.m. Atlantic on CTV CTV News Channel, or on your CTV News app. So whether you saw it live and in person, or you watched it online or TV years later, chances are you have heard of Live Aid. Well, now audiences are getting a chance to revisit history's biggest televised concert, where we saw iconic moments in music like this. So Live Aid was broadcast in 1985 with the top artists of the UK and the US coming together in simultaneous concerts, raising funds for famine relief in Ethiopia. And the musical Just for One Day takes us back to the concert and behind the scenes at a look of how it all came together. That show is here in Canada for its first international stop. So joining us this morning, playing co-creator of Live Aid, Midge Ure, and Live Aid fan, Suzanne, George Ure, and Hope Canada. Great to have you here.
Thanks so much.
Good morning.
Coming off of 2 shows yesterday, so thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Listen, the show goes back and forth. We go present day back to 1984, and Hope, you play the 80s version of your character, Suzanne. Well, obviously, you weren't born in the 80s. What's it like to step into that time period?
It's amazing. It's been such a learning curve, and obviously my family was sort of overwhelmed and are so excited for me to be doing this because my mum is a massive fan.
Does she remember watching it?
Oh, 100%. She said she used to go around to her best friends every Saturday and they'd watch the video of it again and again and again. And so when she heard that I was coming on board, she was over the moon. And so, yeah, it's been amazing.
You can look back at some of her photos for inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. Her hair, her massive perm.
Oh, man. George, you play Midge. He co-created not only Live Aid, but also Band Aid,
Yes.
the Band Aid Charitable Trust, and he's co-writer of Do They Know It's Christmas, which is familiar to people here in Canada. That was along with Sir Bob Geldof.
Yes.
So what do we learn about his story that people might not know?
I think what's interesting about Midge is that you see how instrumental he was, but almost out of the spotlight. Bob, we met Sir Bob again on Sunday at the opening, and he's a really formidable character in life, and I think that's how he managed to get stuff done. But Midge, I think, is a little bit more practical, and that's why they're a good duo, really, is that they balanced each other out.
Yeah, Bob seemed like the big sort of personality and would get people in the room, but Midge is the one who got all the details.
I think if you watch, there's a fantastic documentary on the making of the record, and Midge is very much burrowing away at the sound desk, mixing, lyrics being handed out, and Bob equally contributed, but holds court and gets everyone going. So it's a real mix of personalities with the two of them.
Can I ask you about your interactions with Sir Bob Geldof? I was surprised. I didn't know he was coming to Toronto for the opening, which was really cool to see. You've met before.
I have, yeah. I've been on the show now since the original workshop, probably about 3 years ago. And so I've known Bob a long time. And he's such an incredible, incredible human. He just is one of those people that said, I'm going to do the thing, and I'm going to make a change. And I just think it's so powerful, the influence and the work that he's doing and has done.
And George, what's your interactions with him, and what do you see in him that he's still involved? He's still so involved.
Very much so. He really is still spearheading projects around the world. He's a doer, Bob. The first time we met was in the rehearsal studio in London, and it's an experience because it's a small room and he's sat closer than we are, and I've got to bang out all of my numbers and he's sitting right there. But he was pleased, and I got a high five and a well done, so I'll take it.
That's almost like being knighted.
It was,
Listen, Live Aid was such a huge moment. There's so much great music. It features, songs by David Bowie, Bob Dylan, Queen, Madonna. It must feel really good to watch these songs being performed, but I'm curious about the audience participation. What is that like?
Well, the audiences have gone wild for it since we got to Toronto.
Amazing.
It's been amazing. We were warned is the wrong word, but we were told that perhaps the audience would be a little more calm and composed, but they are on their feet, clapping their hands, singing along. So
and people coming up to us after the shows have been like so kind and forthcoming, saying this is amazing. It's the best thing we've seen in such a long time.
someone danced down the street last night. Her name was Lydia. She was screaming, "I'm your biggest fan in Canada."
It was amazing.
So we're it's been tremendous to see the effect that the story and the music has on the audience. I think that's what makes it special.
You know what? And, like, who doesn't want to be like Lydia and impacted by music where you're skipping down the street and you still feel so good? And concerts have the ability to do that for people.
Okay, you guys, this is like my one claim to fame story from a concert where I was like superstar adjacent, where my high school choir was asked to perform with Josh Groban at the Saddle Dome in Calgary. And his song "You Raise Me Up," we were the choir that came out. And so picture this, we're in our choir uniforms, which was a really long gray kilt, like past the knees, with white button-up shirts, buttoned all the way. So we looked so cool. And we walk down these stairs in the Saddle Dome behind Josh Groban, and it is packed packed. It is a sold-out show. And as we start to sing the choral part, the entire crowd does too. And we had that moment. You know when stars talk about when everyone sings the song back to them? Yeah. We had that moment where everyone sang it to us, and it wasn't even our song. And I was 17, and I think about it, and it is still one of the greatest moments of my life. Being on stage with him. So I can't even imagine for these guys night after night getting to hear the crowd sing back to them, because that is a high like I will never forget.
Do you have that on tape? Do you have it recorded somewhere?
Oh God, I'm sure somebody does. I've looked for it online.
Wow, that's really cool.
Listen, if someone's listening and they can find Central Memorial Choir singing with Josh Groban at the Saddle Dome in 2004, let me know.
That's very cool. I remember anytime Dave Matthews was in town, I would like go to absolutely everything, like favorite band. And I ended up at a show with 5,000 people at the Masonic Temple.
Oh, fun.
I know. And it was like last minute ticket. I ended up there and just remember being like in total awe. It was just such a unique experience, because when are you ever in a venue with, I know 5,000 sounds like a lot of people, but when you're in a small venue like that, used to playing 20,000 people being one of many, it was just so cool to be part of such a small crowd.
Okay, well, speaking of audiences, our next guest definitely found his. Logan Moffat just needed one ingredient to become a viral star.
Okay, so let's talk about your background here, Logan. How did you get into cooking? Have you been always a lover in the kitchen?
Yeah, I've been a family cook for my family at home ever since I was like 12 or something. It's been a long time. So I grew up cooking for most of my life, and I've always loved cucumbers, so it feels really on brand to be so known for this cucumber salad recipe.
Okay, let's talk about your love of cucumber. Why was that the food that you just connected with the most?
I feel like I've always loved cucumber. Like my friend found this video of me actually, which is like real proof. This is me in high school eating an entire cucumber at lunch. So I feel like I'm not new to this, I'm true to this. I've always loved cucumbers, and they go with everything, so why not?
They really do. I'm also like a huge lover of the I'll bring a cucumber and then I like a dip with it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It's the easiest snack.
So good. And it's so refreshing.
Yes.
Your eyes are the color of cucumbers.
I know, it's
ever told you
probably
that?
because of all the cucumbers that I eat.
Is there truth in that? That's really funny. I heard last year that there was a shortage of cucumbers in Iceland because of your recipes, because everyone wanted to try them.
Yeah, I heard that as well. That is so crazy that like somewhere so far away like Iceland, that I can have like an impact on the cucumber supply there. So that was really insane to find out that that was happening.
So how do you come up with the recipes?
Usually I kind of like look at foods that already exist and think like, would they be good in a cucumber salad? And most of the time, yes, they are. So like one example was like jalapeno poppers. I was like, I feel like that'd be so good in a cucumber salad. And I tried it, and it's really good.
It's really good. It sounds really good.
Yeah.
You are one of 5 Canadians. This is really cool.
Yeah.
Highlighted on TikTok's Discover list for 2025. What's it like to be recognized in that way?
Yeah, I feel like it's honestly just such an honor, because TikTok is the platform that I like started my content creation journey on and my passion for creating content. So to be recognized as a part of the Discover list, one of 5 Canadians, it's just so cool.
My kids are trolling me. I have 3 of them, 3 children. And they keep, I'll say, because I eat cucumbers almost every day.
Yeah.
And they'll look at me and they'll say, cucumber, mommy, cucumber, it's a fruit.
I know.
And I say, no, I don't like that. It's a vegetable.
That's
okay,
how I
tell
feel.
us right now, in your opinion,
Yeah.
is a cucumber a fruit or a veg?
I think it's technically a fruit, but I consider it a vegetable.
I know, me too.
How can you not?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there anything a cucumber does not go well with?
Maybe the one salad that wasn't the best, I tried peanut butter and jelly.
And it didn't work?
It wasn't the best.
It wasn't the best. I'm surprised, actually. I would think that the crunch would add something.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't terrible, but I think it's not as good, no.
You know, sometimes when you're out at like a party or something, at a dinner party, you're meeting people for the first time, and usually the question of like, what do you do for a living comes up.
Yeah.
Like, how do you answer that?
I think I just like content creator.
You don't say I'm a cucumber specialist.
No, if you want to like find out where you know me from, maybe it's the cucumber salads, but I am a content creator.
Do you find that you get stopped and people talking to you about
Yeah, it's
your
super
life?
cool to like meet a lot of people who also like love cucumber salads just like me. Yeah.
It's so interesting. Like when you were little, what did you think you were going to be when you grew up?
Oh my gosh, I had no idea, but I think this might be meant to be.
So Valentine's Day is now in our rear view mirror, and we are focusing on one of the most important relationships that you will nurture over the course of your lifetime.
And we're not talking about the one with your significant other, or your parents, nope, or your children, nope.
We are, in fact, talking about the relationship you have with yourself. Peak performance coach Hina Khan helps us break it down.
For anyone who's brushing this off as a silly concept or thinking this is so weird or out there, why would you say it is important to fall in love with yourself?
Well, let's think about it. When we are falling in love with somebody else, how do we think about them? What are our thoughts? How do we treat them? How do we feel about them? What are the things that we do for them? And if that person was to say something really negative and critical about themselves, we would probably step in and be like, that is not true. Do not speak to yourself like that. So now if we apply that to ourselves, we will be so loving, kind, and forgiving. And Kelsey, I think you'll love this. They say that self-esteem increases when we do esteemed things repeatedly. So when you're in love with yourself, you're gonna treat yourself well, and that's what you'll be doing. You're also putting the focus squarely on what you think about you, not what others think about you, which ultimately is none of our business anyways.
I love all of
yes.
this. So I hadn't heard about this one concept before. This is something you called solo dating.
Yes.
What is this?
So solo dating is when you take yourself out on dates. And the beautiful thing about this is that it can be curious and playful, and you can try different things. I would say the important thing is to not have any attachment to it. So this way you can stretch and you can also be uncomfortable. And it really has so many benefits to start to do this for yourself.
I think the key to that too is you probably got to put your phone away too. You just got to go and be with yourself.
Yeah, and you can even tap into like, what did I love when I was a child, or what did I stop doing because I got caught up in work, or I was doing what other people wanted to do. Like, start to really think about that.
Yeah, no, I love that a lot. You talk about this, obviously, as you just mentioned, kind of reconnecting with yourself, and it is so effective.
You reconnect with yourself, it's so effective, and there's so many benefits. Like, the first thing is, so many people live this when-then life. Oh, when I'm dating, then I will do that. When I'm dating, then I might go to that restaurant, I might do those things. And we're putting our life on hold for what? The other thing is that the way it can help is that if anybody's feeling a little dating fatigue, maybe want a break from the apps. That is another thing that solo dating can help with, because again, you're focusing on yourself. And then finally, it increases your confidence and independence when you can start to do this. And I will say this, because this is whether you're in a relationship or not, why solo dating is so good. Even if you're in a relationship, Kelsey, it's because you're taking 100% responsibility for your own happiness.
See, I love this. I love this. I talk to my kids about this a lot.
Yes.
I say the only person whose job it is to make you happy is you. And it's hard to learn that.
It's so hard to learn that because we grew up with things like, God, you know, we love the movies, but you complete me. No, I am whole and complete. You are whole and complete. Let's do what lights us up. And if it's doing it together at times, that's great.
Let's all say it together. I complete me.
I complete me.
I complete me.
It's no one else's responsibility.
Right. So how do you balance, though, falling in love with yourself, and then if someone's listening to this saying, this sounds like a whole lot of ego, what do you say back to that?
Oh my gosh, I love that. So here's the thing. I think that playing small is selfish. And I think that when you're falling in love with yourself, just imagine the energy you bring to everything. It enhances your family. It enhances your work. It enhances who you are being. And then people want to be around you. And it's not about ego. It's about you really knowing who you are, remembering who you are, your own divinity. And as you remember that and express that, well, people will also start falling in love with you, but that's not the reason you're doing it. You see, it's ego if we're doing it for somebody else. It's ego if we're doing this because I want that person to like me. This has nothing to do with ego, because it's all about spirit and you remembering who you are.
And when it comes to loving yourself or loving others, sometimes you just need a reminder that everything is going to be just fine.
Yeah, right now that reminder is coming to us in the form of beautiful new music.
Mama got a new job in the city. She still has your things.
So that is singer-songwriter Sebastian Gaskin with a track off his upcoming debut album, Love Child.
How would you describe this album?
Yeah, you know, I grew up with such a mixture of influences, and you know, in the music industry, it's kind of expected of you to sort of stick in one lane, but I never really resonated with that, and so I, figured my first album, why should it be created to the sound of one genre where I lived these stories, listening to different music, different genres,
Which is like how so many people live, right? You think about all of the music that you listened to growing up and you listen to now. Can we talk about your granny? Can we? Because the song we played off the top of this interview is called Song for Granny. You describe it as like a conversation with her. Tell me more about the inspiration behind that song.
Yeah, she was such a special person, She was somebody that people could come to in the community. Growing up, I often saw her, because she was a gospel singer as well, right? So she would often be at funerals and wakes and kind of singing for the families. And she was a very well-respected community leader, and obviously was a pillar of our family. So, losing her was obviously this horrible thing, So
I'm sorry.
Being able to reconnect with her through music and, kind of speaking directly to her via the song was very healing for me.
Do you have memories of singing with her?
Yeah, for sure. Like she was always playing the guitar around the house, so cool. We did sit on the ground looking up at her kind of thing,
It's really cool. We know that music can be healing. And I've heard you say in a lot of interviews that these songs on this album really helped you process some of your own trauma. So how does it feel to now know that, your personal stories, these are personal stories to you, are released into the world and will be? What's that feeling like?
Man, it's, I think it's a bit of liberation because a lot of these songs come from a time in my life. I feel like I was a different person when I wrote some of these songs, right? Because some of these were wrote like 3-4 years ago. So, to finally be able to release them and release energetically these songs, is a bit of a relief, and it's very exciting.
It is very exciting. You list Adele as one of your biggest influences.
Yeah.
Can I play a clip and then we'll react out of it? I want to show everybody this. Watch this.
Yeah.
When the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case, I could offer you a warm embrace to make you feel my love.
I love this song. What is it about Adele that resonates with you?
Just her ability to tell stories, in a way that we all can kind of relate to. Like she's, often sings about very specific times in her life, and she writes them in a way that we can all relate to, And, I kind of just grew up listening to her on the radio and that kind of thing. So she's amazing.
I know, and her range is so great. It's really, really wonderful to meet you. Congratulations, Sebastian.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for being with us today.
For more great conversations, download or hit subscribe to Your Morning, the podcast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
And don't forget, you can watch us live weekday mornings on CTV, CTV News Channel, or on your CTV News app. Start your morning with us.